Good morning and welcome to Rising. We have a great show for you today and I am glad to be joined by Erin McGuire. How are you?
Great, how are you? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, our first time doing the show together.
It
so
is.
I'm looking forward to that. How has your week been?
So far so good. I made it to Friday. That's really always the goal.
That is the main thing. Once you get
yours?
much the same between here, the White House, running around, but it's been a busy news week at least, so
Yeah.
plenty to talk about.
At least the weather's getting better too.
Exactly, for sure. So, coming up on Rising, we'll be discussing the White House's communication strategies around the Iran war.
We'll also get into Democratic Senator John Fetterman's role in selecting possibly the next Homeland Security Secretary. But first, Niall, what's in your note today?
So, today everyone is talking about a clip of President Trump from yesterday. In fact, we're going to be talking about it more than once on this show. I'm referring, of course, to the President's jab over Pearl Harbor, delivered while sitting beside the Prime Minister of Japan. If you haven't seen it, it's worth dividing your attention here between Trump himself and the reaction of Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi. Here it is.
You don't want to signal too much. When we go in, we went in very hard and we didn't tell anybody about it because we wanted surprise. Who knows better about surprise than Japan? Okay? Why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor? Okay? Right? He's asking me. No, you believe in surprise, I think, much more so than us.
So, look, I don't want to be too po-faced and earnest about this. I'll admit that if that was some random person off the street who said that, yeah, I would have laughed. But it's not a random person off the street. It's the President of the United States. And even if it wouldn't break into the top 20 or 30 most outrageous things Trump has ever said, it's still revealing. It's revealing because of the casual willingness to offend and because of the complete lack of any kind of emotional intelligence in that setting. It also matters because Takaichi, a staunch conservative, is one of the people whom Trump was trying to persuade to help him reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Good job winning her over, Mr. President. Meanwhile, the bigger strategic battle over the strait has become Exhibit A, regarding Trump's failings in how he deals with the wider world. First, he attacked Iran without any meaningful consultation with allies other than Israel. Second, he and his administration can't seem to get their story straight about whether they did or did not expect Iran to, in effect, block the vital shipping channel. And third, Trump is now furiously trying to hector other nations into getting himself out of a mess of his own making. And they're answering as any reasonable person would. Germany's defense minister, Boris Pistorius, says, quote, "This is not our war. We have not started it." His chancellor, Friedrich Merz, quote, "The war in the Middle East is not a matter for NATO." And here's French President Emmanuel Macron earlier this week in a clip from Fox News.
We are not a party to the conflict, and therefore France will never take part in operations to reopen or liberate the Strait of Hormuz in the current context.
This isn't just about Iran, of course. It's about a president who derides allies, tries to bully other leaders, and then wonders why they won't help him when he needs them. It's like watching a belligerent 9-year-old blunder, shove, and push his way around the schoolyard, and then cry and whine about how nobody wants to be his friend. A quick reminder. Since his re-election, Trump has done the following. Ambushed and berated Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in the Oval Office, mocked Canada as the would-be 51st state and belittled its Prime Minister as governor, threatened to seize control of Greenland, perhaps by using the US military. That particular controversy and the seismic impact it had in Europe still isn't fully appreciated, in my view, here in America. Then there was this from January on the sacrifice of NATO troops in Afghanistan. The clip you're about to see is from ABC News coverage at the time. Let's watch.
Tonight, anguish and outrage from America's closest NATO allies after President Trump claimed they never really sacrificed on the battlefield to defend the United States.
We've never needed them. We have never really asked anything of them. They'll say they sent some troops to Afghanistan or this or that. And they did. They stayed a little back, a little off the front lines.
That's just not true. Almost 1/3 of the deaths on the Allied side in Afghanistan came from nations other than the United States. The British alone lost more than 450 people. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who's no firebrand himself, called Trump's comments insulting and frankly appalling. Trump likes to bluster his way through all these controversies, including the current one over the blocked Strait of Hormuz. Quote, "We do not need the help of anyone," he wrote on social media this week. He wrote that while desperately trying to round up help and failing. Nobody doubts the United States' military power, but Trump seems to think that military dominance means the rest of the world somehow doesn't matter. And he's wrong about that. It matters that Europe won't come to Trump's aid. It matters that Gulf allies are outraged that Trump has placed them in the firing line. It matters that China and Russia are hovering in the background, using all of this to their advantage. And that matters at home in domestic politics, where Americans are paying almost $1 a gallon more for gas than they were a month ago. "Thank you for your attention to this matter," Trump likes to say. But he's not paying attention to how much the rest of the world matters, and it's coming back to haunt him. So,
how do you really feel?
Well, I would assume you disagree, and that's what we do here on Rising. So tell me all the reasons why you think I'm wrong.
I don't think that everything you said there is wrong, but I think there was a level of emotionality really put to the president's approach to politics, and the lack of being a politician really seems to strike you as the thing that upsets you the most about the president. The fact that he doesn't care about offending people. America has kowtowed to our neighbors, to Iran, to other world powers for decades, to the detriment of our own nation, to watching jobs leave, to watching conflicts and watching Iran continue to murder Americans. This is a president, yeah, you don't have to like his style. You don't. You don't have to like what he says. That Pearl Harbor quip from the president, to your point, is not one of the most insulting things he said. And you know what? This is a president who enjoys those kind of moments. You don't have to like it, but you know what? This is a man who, at the core, has stayed the most true to America first. He doesn't care what anybody else thinks. Making fun of Canada, great. We just beat them 3 times in gold medals in each part of the Olympics. Like, let's go. Let's have a little fun. Let's be unabashedly proud to be Americans. And yes, we do need our allies. We do need to work with them. But you're also seeing those allies and the Arab states start to step in. You were starting to see that, yes, Macron is saying that right now, where he's saying we're not going to do anything in this context, which means the moment Iran steps over the line, which we all know is more likely than not to happen when it comes to European allies and the rest of the world, as they are feeling this increased pressure on them for their absolute terrorism for decades. You are seeing more people start to come in the fold. So he might be saying that right now, but given another week, given another however long, and there is a likelihood they will have to step in because it will affect them. And that is the problem with Iran, is that whoever lit this match was going to start a fuse, was going to start a bigger broil in this. And the White House has not communicated that clearly. I think that has been one of their biggest strategic errors in this, because if they had put all of it together, you would have seen, I think, a more comprehensive plan shown to the American people. But being upset that the president is a blustery, like, big mouth kind of guy, I just don't think that that's worth the argument.
But the point is that the style and the substance aren't as separable as you're suggesting that they are. The reason that he's going around trying to get people to help him in the Strait of Hormuz, and they won't do it, is because he has previously done the various things that I mentioned, including suggesting he's going to invade Greenland, despite the fact that that would involve a confrontation with a NATO ally in Denmark. So it is not purely that he is prone to say offensive things. It's that those offensive things have consequences.
They do have consequences, and I can appreciate that, but the consequences aren't done yet, because neither is Trump. And so where we are right now may not be where we land in the end with this, no matter what he says and who he offends along the way.
Fair enough. We'll be back in a moment, because the White House is facing backlash for its online messaging of the war in Iran. We'll look at that next. Stay with us.